You know him as the host of the Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs, a celebration of blue-collar work. And now Mike Rowe is making headlines for his approach to voting. He posted this on Facebook recently. Quote, regardless of their political agenda, my celebrity pals are fundamentally mistaken about our civic duty to vote. There is simply no such thing. Voting is not a right, not a duty, not a moral obligation. Joining us now is Mike Rowe. Great to see you, Mike. Thanks a lot for joining us. So you've been following this election closely and carefully, and I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of people are for Trump, a lot of people are against him. That's, of course, all legitimate. But you're also hearing this kind of undercurrent of contempt for Trump's voters, people in the great middle of the country, a lot of them blue-collar people. What do you make of that, the elites hating blue-collar America?
Look, I mean, I hate to generalize, but I think, in general, elections are always popularity contests. Right. So, it's gone from an ad hominem kind of thing to just gross generalizations about uneducated groups, whether it's white, black, or somewhere in between. Everybody seems to have a category, and that's a shame.
Well, it is a shame, especially when it's framed in moral terms. It's not just a debate about who's right and who's wrong. It's a debate about who's virtuous and who's sinful. Have you noticed this?
I rarely wade into this kind of thing in terms of a polemic, but people were asking me why I wasn't joining my friends in Hollywood to basically rock the vote in a very general way. And my response was, look, I just prefer to know who I'm talking to before I tell them to either protest or exercise their Second Amendment right or their First Amendment right or their right to vote. It really just came down to that.
So you're not encouraging people not to vote. You're merely saying that if you do vote, maybe you ought to, gather some information about what you're voting on.
I mean, in general, my post was, look, if you really want me to offer advice to 500,000 people or 6 million people on my Facebook page, well, how about read? Get a philosophy that you can at least defend and articulate, and then maybe we can argue about policy or candidates or things like that. But until you do the work, pulling the lever is not the work. Scratching off a square is not the work. Understanding why you believe what you do, that's work.
That seems like a pretty adult way to treat people. I wonder how they took it. So so you see the American middle class, you spend a lot of time with people who work outside, and you've noticed in this election that they're pretty frustrated. Do you understand why? It seems like a lot of people where I live don't understand why. Do you get it?
On a really personal level, families and friends are being divided over what feels like a litmus test of sorts. And, of course, I know that happens all the time, but I've never seen it happen really historically since the Civil War.
That's right.
And that I think has made people really, really uncomfortable in ways that it's difficult to articulate.
Yeah, I hope it's better than Reconstruction when this all ends. So you've got a foundation, which, unlike the foundations of others, you're not getting rich from. It's called Mike Rowe Works. Tell us what it does.
It's an attempt to shine a light on jobs that actually exist and focus on people who are truly willing to learn a skill that's actually in demand. We've trained, 500 or 600 people in welding alone, and you'd be amazed at how many make six figures, and you'd be amazed at how happy they are. So there's a disconnect between what a good job is nowadays and a decent opportunity.
As someone with no actual skills, I'm actually a little envious of that. Mike Rowe, it's great to see you this morning. Speaking of myself, I hope you run for something. Thanks for joining us.
Tucker, I think you're highly skilled at whatever it is you do.
Exactly, whatever it is I do. It's great. Thanks for coming on. Next.
9 days to go. Well, after James Comey announced he was reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, the Democratic nominee laid out how she hopes the country responds.
I would urge everybody to get out and vote early in all the states that have early voting, because I think Americans want a president who can lead our country, who can get the economy working for everyone, not just those at the top, and who can bring our country together. I offer that. I can do that. And I'm very confident that the American people know that. And we're going to continue to discuss what's at stake in this election, because I believe that it's one of the most consequential elections ever.
Clinton is now under FBI investigation just over a week out from the election, and she thinks that she is the choice to unify this country in what has become a very, very divisive election season. Here to discuss more, our Democratic strategist Brian Benjamin and Vice Chair of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, Brunel Donald-Shea. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
All right, so
good morning.
Brian,
God bless you, and God bless America.
Same to you. Brian, I will start with you. You heard from Hillary Clinton on Friday after the news broke about the investigation into her emails being reopened, saying, I'm the one to unite this country. Is that a message that she can be selling right now with all of this going on, this being the headlines everywhere?
Well, first of all, the case wasn't reopened. I know you guys keep saying that. What actually happened is that Comey has found these new emails on Priebus' device, and they're basically just going to investigate that. So this is not a new investigation. Obviously, there's no criminal intent, because if you pay attention to what has happened here, there is no emails from Hillary Clinton or to Hillary Clinton that are part of this.
But Brian, we don't know that, though. We don't know that. I mean, James Comey hasn't been specific on any of that. So how do you know?
Well, how does Donald Trump know? He's out here saying that she's a criminal and that this is worse than Watergate. So, I mean, and matter of fact, we should investigate Donald Trump on some of those sex parties he had with minors in New York at the Plaza Hotel, these 11 accusers. I mean, he's someone who should be talking about investigations given his background. All
right, Brunel, but this is what the focus is right now, just 9 days before this election. And as we have heard from James Comey, we don't know the specifics yet. We don't know how bad this could be.
Well, you know, I'm an attorney, and I've been in federal court, and let me tell you something. FBI agents do not just reopen cases. If they have opened, well, she's under investigation.
Okay, fine.
She is a presidential candidate. She is under investigation, and what she's saying is she's going to bring the nation together. We've got WikiLeaks emails showing corruption. We've got Huma Abedin with 10,000 emails under life insurance because she doesn't want an accidental death. We've got Hillary Clinton running around talking about she can bring the nation together when she and the president have worked so hard over this last 8 years to divide the country, whites against blacks, blacks against Hispanics, Hispanics against Asians, and now you want to be the person to bring the nation together? I don't think so.
Brian,
believe me,
we know that
they
Donald Trump cannot bring this nation together.
Jury, trust me.
But no, we know Donald Trump cannot bring this nation together, okay? We know the comments he's made against war heroes like John McCain. We know the comments he's made against individuals who were disabled. We know the comments he's made. Excuse me?
Brian, go ahead. Brian, go ahead.
We know the comments he has made about Mexicans. He's called them rapists. Matter of fact, if you had sex with a minor, you're a rapist. But let's leave that aside for a second. He has made so many ununifying comments. He cannot be the unifying candidate.
Okay, but Brian, here's the reality of it, though, because Brian, I have talked to a number of voters just in the past couple of days about what's going on, and a few of them have said to me, I'm concerned. I thought maybe Hillary Clinton was my candidate, but with this going on in this email investigation, who knows how long this is going to take to get resolved. People are saying, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure I can go vote for that. I mean, you've got to at least say that's a fact.
It's a fact on both sides is my only point. I mean, there's a sexual assault issue that 11 women have accused Donald Trump of sexual assault. So, I mean, that's also an issue. But it's a problem. James Comey needs to come out. He's a Republican, and I know Republicans say the election is rigged. Maybe not. But he needs to come out and give more detail. There's no doubt about it.
Brunel?
What I would say is this. Get your mouth off of that patriot, Comey. I am so happy that he has decided that the American people are more important than Hillary Clinton. He and those FBI agents on the bottom and the FBI agents in New York, the local officials who got this information, we are grateful as a nation. And let me tell you something. Those women coming forward all of a sudden, excuse me, sir, I'll let you talk. All these women coming all of a sudden knowing all these are allegations, but we've got smoking gun emails basically saying that there is corruption going on. We've got Hillary Clinton, who never should have had that server usurping federal record laws. She broke the law, and now she's going to expect the Latino vote. She's going to expect the black vote to put her into office on that sinking ship. That sinking ship.
Guys, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to have to leave it there.
The only candidate for the United States. America first
Brian
candidate.
Benjamin,
Donald
thank you
J.
both
Trump.
for being here. Really. So of the 34 Senate seats up for election, Democrats need just 4 or 5 seats to take the Senate majority. And currently there are 6 states where polling shows the race is neck and neck. But will the FBI's investigation to Hillary Clinton and her email change any of that? Here to comment is Ian Pryor, the communications director for American Crossroads. Good morning, sir. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Abby.
So first, this news breaking just 11 days before this election. We're now 9 days until Election Day. Could certainly impact the general election, but is it big enough to have an impact on some of these local races where, as I just mentioned, a number of them are neck and neck right now?
Absolutely. Look, like you said, there are 6 Senate races that are essentially neck and neck. I mean, some of them are actually tied. Some of them are within the margin of error. And then you add Wisconsin, which has recently come back online. That's something that Democrats thought was going to be a gimme, and now they're being forced to spend money there. So what you have in these races is that most of the Republican Senate candidates have been running ahead of Donald Trump for really the whole race, whereas most of the Democratic candidates have been running behind Hillary Clinton. So ultimately, when Trump goes down in the polls, we get to the tie race. But when Hillary goes down in the polls, you see the Republicans rise and open up somewhat of a lead. We saw it, initially when the FBI investigation stuff was going on. We also saw it during her health scare. So I would not be surprised next week if there's polling done over the weekend. You're going to see some of these Republican Senate incumbents open up a little bit of a lead on their opponents, and that could ultimately swing the Senate.
Yeah, they would be hoping for that. So let's take a look at some of these states. Sure. North Carolina, for example, is a big one. You have Senator Richard Burr, the Republican there, versus Deborah Ross. Neck and neck, what's going to happen here?
Well, that's an interesting race because you also have a competitive governor's race in North Carolina. But one of the things we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks in polling is that Deborah Ross, the Democrat, the attacks on her are really starting to take hold. She was the former director of the ACLU. The big hit on her is that, she opposed making public the sex offender registry, and she has a bit of a flag-burning problem, which is another case that she defended while refusing to stand up for a veteran that flew a flag. These hits are starting to work. Her numbers are starting to go down, and we've actually seen Richard Burr start to pull back ahead in that race. This is only going to help him with the Clinton issue. Right,
and then you have Evan Bayh, who originally had quite a lead over Todd Young there, but now it's looking like it's getting closer.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, right when they recruited Evan Bayh to get back in the Senate, everyone released polls. Evan Bayh up 20 points. Well, the trajectory in that race has gone opposite of Evan Bayh. There's a new bad story about him every single day. That race is tied, and some polls actually even show Todd Young, who is a former Marine, taking the lead there.
All right, Nevada's a huge one because obviously Harry Reid's seat. So here you have Joe Heck, the Republican, versus Catherine Cortez Masto. This one is very tight. Everyone's watching this one. What is going to happen, you think?
Well, Joe Heck is a dream candidate. I mean, he's a surgeon, he's a brigadier general, he's a combat veteran. He's running against Catherine Cortez Masto, a very politically, someone that was very political as Attorney General. She's Harry Reid's handpicked candidate. People in Nevada do not like Harry Reid, and they don't like thinking that Harry Reid is picking their next senator to kind of continue the legacy that he's been there for so long. So that one, again, neck and neck. Heck has been in the lead in most public polling for the past, several months. Again, this is something where Catherine Cortez Masto has latched herself to Hillary Clinton. There's no escape now.
All right, Ian Pryor, thanks for being with us this morning. Good having you here.
Thank you very much.
A week and 2 days before the election, and more than 15 million people have already voted.
And a record in Texas, where turnout apparently is up nearly 50% from even the last presidential election.
It's a surge of early voters. Our next guest says that in Texas, many of them are not coming out for Hillary Clinton. He is the Texas Agriculture Commissioner, Sid Miller, and he joins us now to explain. Mr. Miller, thanks for coming on this morning.
Love your hat.
So you're saying...
Good morning, Tucker. Good morning, Abby.
Typically, early voting helps Democrats. That's the cliche anyway. But you're saying it's different in Texas. Why do you say that?
Well, we've had a huge turnout here in Texas. We're up, like you said, 150%. We've already, in just the first week of early voting, had almost 1 million people vote. Last election, it was a little over 600,000. So they're turning out, and I don't think it's... Bernie's supporters that are excited about coming out for Hillary. I don't think it's Barack Obama supporters coming out for Hillary. I think it's the untapped masses out there that have never registered to vote, or if they have, it's been 8 or 10 elections, and they're not in the polls. The polls are wrong. They're oversampling Democrats from 8 to 16%. They're oversampling women, 5 to 8%. Of course, they're undersampling Republicans, but there's 20 to 25% of the electorate that have never voted before, and these are all Donald Trump fans. There's really not anybody in Texas that's in the middle of the road. You know, we have a saying here, the only thing you find in Texas in the middle of the road is yellow stripes and dead armadillos. So they're coming out for Trump.
You know, this has been such a divisive election, and two candidates that have some of the highest unfavorables maybe we've ever seen. I've heard from a lot of folks who say, you know, I support Donald Trump, but I never tell anyone that publicly. I will privately go in the voting booth and put down his name. Do you think there's something real going on there around the country where we may see more support for Trump because people just aren't willing to publicly admit they're supporting him?
I think there's some of that. You know, I think some of the established Republicans, the grassroots people are a little reluctant because you know, he's different. He's not the establishment. He's not a typical politician. Matter of fact, he's not even a politician. You know, he's out there. He wants to change everything, and I think people are hungry for that. I think they want somebody that will drain the swamp, that'll clean out Washington, D.C. and have a fresh approach. Someone that's not beholding the special interest in the lobbyist in Wall Street. Someone that you know, that the establishment doesn't own. And I think the American people are ready for that.
Has the Republican Party of Texas and/or the Trump campaign been facilitating early voting? Has the Get Out the Vote operation been successful, do you think?
You know, we've been doing some of that. It's nothing unusual about it, nothing extraordinary. I've been through several elections down here, so it's a typical get out the vote effort. We're doing that. I've traveled the state with the victory team, and we're encouraging that. But it's not that. It's the Donald Trump phenomenon. It's going to be a good election here in Texas. It's not close. I know what the polls say, but Donald Trump will win by double digits here in Texas. And there's nothing more, you know, I guess tomorrow's Halloween, there's nothing more haunting than the thought of Hillary Clinton in the White House. Us down here in Texas just can't stand the thought of that.
Well, we'll see what happens. Texas is a big state. Sid Miller, thanks for being here. Loved having you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Nearly 19 million Americans have already cast their ballots, and pollsters are saying more Democrats have made their pick in the state of North Carolina. In 2012, 6 in 10 people voted early in the Tar Heel state. So with so many votes cast before this FBI announcement, what can Donald Trump do to make sure more people side with him on November 8th? Joining me now is North Carolina Congresswoman Renee Elmers. Nice to see you this morning, Congresswoman. We will appreciate you joining us this morning. Can Donald Trump do anything to turn the tide in the Tar Heel state? He's down about 2.5 points in the Real Clear average, politics average of polls this morning.
Oh, absolutely. And there again, you know, Obamacare is really the issue right now for North Carolinians. You know, there are North Carolinians who are opening their mailbox and getting their new premium increases for 2017. They're going up anywhere from 25 to 40% in North Carolina. I've spoken to 3 individuals this week who were either undecided or voting for Hillary Clinton. They're now voting for Donald Trump.
How did undecideds move in the last days of the 2012 race? We said earlier at the top of this segment that 6 in 10 in North Carolina voted early. Well, how did those late movers go in 2012?
Well, you know, the independents are growing in North Carolina by far, and they did side with Mitt Romney. We were the swing state that actually went from Barack Obama to Mitt Romney in 2012, so that was a very good thing. I think you're going to see more of the undecideds, and now with this new FBI situation and the investigation being continued, I think that's speaking to a lot of North Carolinians as well.
Also, the reverberation on the down ballot candidates. Congresswoman, where do you see that playing out right now for those maybe not at the top of the ticket?
Well, you know, certainly we have our issues in North Carolina, and the down ballot tickets are being affected, I believe, more towards the issues in North Carolina. But at this point right now, you know, our Governor Pat McCrory is doing very well. Senator Burr is doing very well. I feel we will definitely maintain those seats and maintain the Republican House and Senate in North Carolina in the General Assembly.
Many pollsters saying, look, Donald Trump has to win North Carolina or he loses this thing. Is he spending enough time there? Is he doing enough there?
He is in North Carolina, as is Mike Pence. In fact, Mike Pence was there for a couple of days, and I know he's, heading to some other territory areas. But, they are spending the time. They're doing what is necessary. And let me tell you, they're going to places. They're not just going to Raleigh and Charlotte, North Carolina. They're going to Kenansville and places that have never had a president of the United States or to be president of the United States come and fly in on a plane.
Duplin County. There you go. That's how you get out the vote. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Director Comey owes it to the American people, releasing this just a matter of days before the election to provide all the information. That's what we're asking. Just get all of it out there, and the voters can judge for themselves. We believe that voters have already made up their minds on this issue, so we find it very strange that 10 days out that he's putting this letter out there. And we discovered last night from Yahoo News that he and the Justice Department may not have a warrant to look at these messages. So we just want all the information out there.
All right, so the FBI is trying to throw the election. James Comey is to blame. Let's bring in Kellyanne Conway this morning, the Trump campaign manager. Nice to see you this morning. Welcome to the show.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Will this argument fly? Democrats suddenly disavowing their relationship to Jim Comey. After all, he was appointed by President Obama, and they've had a cozy relationship for a number of years. Now suddenly they think he's to blame. Will this fly?
No, it's a terrible strategy to basically go on a full-on assault on the FBI director, calling him out and telling him to put everything out on the table. Hillary Clinton can do that today. She just has to call her friend and confidant, Uma Abedin, and say, tell us what's in the email. Tell us what's on the devices that you shared with your pedophile husband who's sexting a 15-year-old girl in North Carolina, which is how we got back to this place in the first instance. I think it's a terrible strategy, but it's very much the strategy of Hillary Clinton throughout her career, which is to shoot the messenger, attack the person who's calling to question your veracity, your fitness for office. But it's not a good look for them. I understand why John Podesta particularly would want to shift attention away from him this week or these weeks, but because we're learning so much from his own emails. But at the same time, to blame the FBI director, who I think was in an impossible spot, if he had sat on the information and Hillary Clinton got elected somehow, although we were always going to win this, then he is interfering in an election. If failure to disclose something material to our judgments as voters is interfering in an election.
All right, so we just heard from the Clinton campaign manager, Robbie Mook, from Fox News Sunday, saying that he believes that voters have already made up their mind about how they feel when it comes to Hillary Clinton and her emails. Our own John Roberts was reporting this ABC Washington Post tracking poll that shows 30% now say the probe makes them less likely to vote for Hillary Clinton. You have 9 days left. How are you seeing the polls shifting, and what are you advising your candidate to focus on in the remaining days?
So, Abby, our candidate is focused on what he's been saying all along. He did 3 different stops yesterday. He'll do that again today. And Friday, he had 3 different state stops after this information was revealed. So in every place, he's addressing the new FBI investigation briefly. And then he's talking about defeating ISIS. He's talking about repealing and replacing Obamacare. He's talking about creating 25 million jobs over the next 10 years, unleashing energy, doing away with the Obamacare penalty through his tax reform. So he's still very focused on what he's been saying, and it's the issue set plus his credibility as a messenger who's not under his first or second FBI investigation in the same year, that's really going to propel us. I think our voters are going to be that much more enthused and engaged, and turnout will be very high among Trump supporters. The poll that you just mentioned with ABC, in addition to showing us now in a dead heat, even though a week ago they said we were down by 12, you see tremendous momentum and enthusiasm. The other thing in the ABC News poll, which is not getting a ton of coverage, is Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are virtually tied on the attribute of who understands the problems of people like you better. That is an area where Obama beat Romney 82-18, and yet Hillary and Trump are tied on that. That's tremendous. That's tremendous news for us going into the last 9 days.
Yeah, that's a great measurement. So in the last week, you had the collapse of Obamacare pretty definitively. You had conclusive proof that the Clinton charities, both of them, are basically a scam. And then you had Hillary Clinton coming once again under criminal investigation by the FBI. The numbers have moved dramatically. The candidates are now tied. Republicans are really excited. But a lot of them I talked to are also concerned that in the last week, Trump may make it again about himself, pulling attention away from Hillary and onto him, which would be bad. What are you doing to ensure message discipline that he does not do that?
Well, I think you've seen the message discipline, particularly in the last few days. And we've always known, Tucker, that if this election is a referendum on Hillary Clinton, she will lose it. I think she and her, literally and figuratively, I think she and her supporters in the mainstream media have tried very hard to make this election not about Hillary Clinton, but about Donald Trump. And yet through Hillary Clinton's own peevish personal reasons to have this private server and hide information in the first place, this election will be about her again now. People will take a look at it, particularly these undecided voters and these independents. If you're an independent, which is different than moderate, you are an independent because you hate the two political parties. You can't stand Washington and everybody connected to it. And what Hillary Clinton just did, what just happened, plays right into their greatest fears and their greatest frustrations about all things Washington, all things politics. So this is now a referendum on her again, and I completely expect and know that Donald Trump will keep talking about repealing and replacing Obamacare. He's basically going into each state like Arizona yesterday and saying, look, your premium increases will be X percentage. In a place like Arizona, where Hillary Clinton will be today, 116% increase in your Obamacare premiums. Yeah. We simply can't abide that.
Well, let's look at some of the battleground states right now, and I'm interested in some of these early voting numbers because in states like North Carolina, in 2012, I mean, 6 in 10 people voted early. And these last sort of late movers in states that Donald Trump has to win. Where do you see things going right now? In 2012, they went late for Mitt Romney in North Carolina. What about North Carolina? What about Michigan?
And in North Carolina, that's absolutely correct. They went late for Mitt Romney. He won the day of the Election Day vote handily, and he won the state. Same thing happened to Tom Tillis 2 years later in beating incumbent Kay Hagan in the Senate race in North Carolina. So there is this practice in North Carolina of the Republicans doing better day of. We very much like the early return data that we're receiving through the auspices of the RNC. They're showing us every day that our early vote or absentee ballot early voting investments are really bearing fruit in places like Florida, Ohio, Iowa, and North Carolina, our core 4 states. So we appreciate the fact that in most cases, Mr. Trump is ahead of where Governor Romney was at this point. And then we're looking at returns in some other states that makes us a little bit bullish to go back there. That coupled with the fact that Hillary Clinton just can't break through 46% or so, even before this new FBI investigation was revealed. Yeah. She's the 46% girl. She just can't break through. For those people who are undecided and not giving her that 52, 53% margin that Obama got in these same states, they're saying to themselves, I just can't trust her. I just can't have this cloud of corruption following the new president around. We don't know where this all ends. And I think that, well, this is why we're going to win. But we were already on a track to win before this broke on Friday. I just think it deepens the nagging concerns that many undecided voters have about Hillary Clinton's honesty and trustworthiness.
Well, and to that point, Kellyanne, a lot of the undecided voters are now wanting to know what is exactly in these emails. I've talked to voters who say that's going to help them make up their mind. We've heard from Hillary Clinton saying she wants James Comey to come back out to give more detail as to what they're looking into. Are we going to hear from Donald Trump more in terms of James Comey and wanting to hear more from him?
Maybe, but, you know, our campaign is about transparency and full disclosure and veracity. We've been saying that about this investigation from the beginning. And so what you will hear is us respecting the process in that we know investigations take a long time. So we can't, even though Hillary Clinton's campaign today is doing 2 things against Comey. 1, they're besmirching his entire reputation and trying to take him down. 2, they're demanding that he act very quickly for their own petty political reasons. These investigations, as all 3 of you know, take a very long time. They're circuitous. There's no indication that we have at the Trump campaign that Jim Comey will be able to comply with that request by a political campaign, Hillary Clinton's. And I just think that he had new explosive information that compelled him to come forward.
Yeah. Kellyanne Conway, great to see you this morning, Kellyanne.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us this morning.
Absolutely. Well, Democrats say
we want to bring in RNC Chair Reince Priebus now to respond to that and to talk about the day's news. Mr. Chairman, nice to see you this morning. I want to get your response, first of all, to the latest news out of Huma Abedin there, saying basically, I have no idea how these emails would have gotten on this computer.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on. First of all, she signed a separation agreement with the Department of State that we put out yesterday where she attested under penalty and perjury that every device that she used during her time with the Secretary of State was turned over to the Department of State. Obviously, that wasn't done. So that's one piece of the puzzle that people aren't talking a lot about. But secondly, this is just a continuation of the corruption of Hillary Clinton. And I know that this is obviously bad news for her, and the election is coming up. But just where this election was before this happened, was that things were tightening already. With Clinton Inc., with all the other scandals that were catching up with Hillary Clinton, the collusion between the foundation and the Secretary of State and Bill Clinton and his speaking fees, all of that was bubbling up. Then on Friday, this hit. Look, she's corrupt, and the fruits of her work are finding her out.
Yeah, well, the Democrats are up in arms about this, as you've been listening to over the past few days, saying, you know, James Conway, you can't just come out and give us basically no information here. Just 11 days before this election, they're saying that he needs to be prosecuted, saying give Clinton a pass. So interesting, though, you rewind just a few months ago, they were having a love affair with James Comey.
Yeah, we were just, before this interview, I was just looking over all of the public statements made by Hillary Clinton and her campaign, top Democrat surrogates about James Comey. Look, I believe she should have been charged 3 months ago. So my opinion on this whole thing hasn't changed. She should have been charged 3 months ago. The director laid out a prima facie case for gross negligence under the statute. He laid it out. They didn't charge her. Loretta Lynch sat in the tarmac for 39 minutes with Bill Clinton before that. Here's the issue, though, for James Comey. He, a few months ago, went before Congress and said the case was closed. Well, during the other investigation with Anthony Weiner, obviously they found something there where he had to inform the committee that he already told under oath that the case was closed, or to tell them, wait a second, this isn't closed, and we found material that's pertinent to the case. They would not have reopened this case if they didn't find something serious to backpedal and inform this committee about.
But wouldn't it just be easier to elect her and then indict her later? That appears to be the position of leading Democrats.
Right. Maybe that's what they think. But, you know, under the statute, and I understand that constitutional lawyers argue about this, but just if you just look at the language of the statute, I don't know if you've looked at it, but it actually says that if you violated this statute, either intentionally or through gross negligence, one of the penalties is you're not eligible to hold public office. That's what the statute says. Now, you can argue the Constitution can't, you know, we can't lay different burdens on, but the actual statute says if you give away state secrets and you act recklessly or through gross negligence, you cannot even hold federal office. You know, this is a serious situation that the American people need to consider when going into the ballot box and deciding whether they want to put a person in office that could be indicted for criminal conduct.
We had Judge Napolitano on the show earlier. I'm not sure if you caught that interview. He seemed torn about this, and one of his concerns was that, look, the policy of the DOJ is within 90 days. You don't release any public policy or progress reports that have or could influence the election. And so he thought that Attorney General Loretta Lynch was honoring that commitment, but then, of course, many others are calling for her removal and saying that she is not fit to serve. Where do you stand on Attorney General Loretta Lynch this morning?
Well, I think she compromised herself when she sat on that airplane with Bill Clinton for 39 minutes. I mean, she could either recuse herself, she could put someone else in charge of handling the decisions on this particular project. Look, she's been in and out of this thing inappropriately the entire time. But I think it all comes back to Hillary Clinton. It comes back to her corrupt behavior. It comes back to everything her touching as Secretary of State had turned to mud, whether it was Russia, Syria, Iraq, Benghazi, her emails. I mean, everything about it. I don't even understand how a person like General Cartwright and General Petraeus, their careers are over, their reputations have been permanently soiled, and here we have a person that wants to run, actually wants to be president of the United States, and it's 9 days from now.
Right.
It's an unbelievable this thing that's gone on here.
So you play this out, Ryan, and we don't know how long this is going to take, or if we're going to hear more from James Comey between now and Election Day. But let's say Hillary Clinton does win this thing, and this continues to go on, this investigation, and Donald Trump says, you know what, I'm not going to step away until this is resolved, until we know the results. Are you going to stand by the nominee? Are you going to stand by Trump in that decision?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, listen, this is a hypothetical. We expect to win on Tuesday. So that's the hypothetical we're operating under, and we're doing well on early and absentee ballot voting. Obviously, you saw the ABC poll went from 12 points down. Now it's 1 point down. And by the way, that poll today that they're talking about with Donald Trump 1 point down, that concluded prior to this bombshell going off on Friday. So I would suspect that the next poll you're going to see is him up. I think that this sort of came to roost at a time when the American people needed to be reminded of the corruption of Hillary Clinton. And for Republicans, I'll just speak to them right now, this is another reminder as far as what the choice is here in this election. I think for those reluctant Republicans, this is exactly what they needed to see, to be reminded of what Hillary Clinton is all about and what you're going to get with a Hillary Clinton presidency.
So you got to think if those polls moved like 10 points in Trump's favor in a week before this latest bombshell, maybe Obamacare played a role. The fact that the president's signature policy initiative is like blowing up right in front of us.
Well, that's a good point, and that's kind of what you did a nicer job than I did, because I was trying to point that out earlier, which is these polls were tightening before this ever happened. I mean, between we sort of seems like last year, but it was just a few days ago we were talking about Bill Clinton, Inc. and Obamacare and in all of the issues surrounding Hillary Clinton. And so that tightening was happening anyway. This hit. This is a race that is really something that I think we're going to win next Tuesday, and I'm excited about it. But I'm not excited about the fact that Hillary Clinton's been getting away with this for years, and the fact that she somehow managed to manipulate the Democrat Party through superdelegates and all the rest. And here we are on the brink of an election, and one of the choices is someone who gave away our most precious national secrets, and here we are. And they're blaming the FBI director for the fact that they misplaced and were reckless with top secret information. It's unbelievable.
Ryan Priebus, chairman of the Republican National Committee, joining us live this morning. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for being here.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Our favorite guest, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, joins us live this morning. Governor, it's great to see you this morning. So how did this become an investigation?
Great to be with you guys this morning.
Well, James Comey, if you read the papers this morning, seems like the one under investigation. Have you noticed that? I thought it was Hillary who's under criminal investigation.
James Comey, he has done something remarkable, and we need to thank him for it. A lot of people are all over his case, but he has finally brought Democrats and Republicans together just before this election, because all of them want him to resign. And that's the only time that I've seen Democrats and Republicans agree on anything in all of 2016. So we will at least be grateful for that.
What about Loretta Lynch in all of this? Of course, we remember the tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton over the summer, and she came out then later apologized, said it was an error in judgment. But she, in the beginning of the summer, said she would listen to the recommendations of the FBI in her decision on this case. Well, we learned yesterday that the DOJ had basically tried to stonewall James Comey from actually sending this letter to Congress, saying he was going to get the emails. Further, the DOJ is also not allowing a warrant to be issued. So the FBI has not yet been able to go through these emails. They have them. They're just not able to read them yet.
Well, I'm sure all of you are aware that if you talk to rank-and-file people in the FBI, either active or retired, there is an uproar within the ranks of the Bureau, because they feel like that everything that they have been trained to do, everything that they have the integrity to do, has been upended by the way this has all been handled. And they're angry and they're frustrated. They feel like that, the agency has been compromised because the DOJ has been so protective of Hillary. They have not allowed this to go through in the same way they did for General Petraeus, General Cartwright, or for that matter, for some low-level sailor who takes a picture on his cell phone. The fact is, America cannot elect somebody to the highest office in the land to be the commander-in-chief of all armed forces, the head of all national security, who can't keep a simple secret, and then who destroys evidence. Hillary talks about something unprecedented. This would be unprecedented. I don't think if she were elected, her presidency would last much longer than a snowball in Phoenix in the middle of August. I just think that there's just too much stink there, and no amount of Febreze is ever going to be able to make it smell good.
So Uma Abedin is now saying that she can't recall how tens of thousands of these missing emails wound up on her husband's, or going to be ex-husband, Weiner's laptop in a folder that was called life insurance. So now you have Hillary Clinton saying, I want everything out there. I've got nothing to hide. But you rewind this back, Governor. That is not what she said early on in this investigation. She did not put everything out there. Had she done that, we might be in a different place today. So who's really at fault here? Is it Hillary Clinton or is it James Comey?
Well, have you noticed that with Hillary, it's never her fault? I mean, you know, Harry Truman said the buck stops here. The only buck that stops with Hillary is the one that has George Washington's face on it. And those are the ones that come from foreign governments that go into the Clinton Foundation. But never does she stand up and say, you know, it is totally my fault.
The FBI is reopening their investigation. This is the biggest political scandal since Watergate. And it's everybody's deepest hope that justice, at last, will be beautifully delivered. Hillary has nobody but herself to blame for her mounting legal difficulties. Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. Hillary set up an illegal server for the obvious purpose of shielding her criminal conduct from public disclosure and exposure.
Donald Trump, of course, on the campaign trail in Arizona, responding to the biggest story of the moment, the FBI's announcement it is resuming a criminal investigation of Hillary Clinton. Here to respond this morning, Martin O'Malley is the former governor of Maryland and a former Democratic presidential candidate. Governor, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks for coming on.
So, thank you, Tucker. Good to be with you
You're
again.
hearing Democrats say, and some Republicans say, too, that the director's announcement 2 days ago added confusion to the presidential race, and I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Wouldn't one way to resolve it be Huma Abedin giving permission to the FBI to read your email? They wouldn't need a warrant then, and then the FBI could assess and explain what exactly is going on. Wouldn't that calm this election and answer the questions that you yourself have raised about this investigation? Why won't she do that?
Yeah, well, maybe, but the FBI has always has a very deliberate approach, to put it kindly, to these sorts of things. And I believe, in having read Director Comey's letter, what he said is that he's going back and he's going to be looking at emails on that server. What he also says is he doesn't know whether any of them is even significant.
Right.
So I believe that I had just heard Mr. Trump talk about the greatest scandal since Watergate. The greatest scandal since Watergate is Donald Trump's Russian allies breaking into the Democratic Party's headquarters and their emails.
All right. No, I've heard the talking about before, but no, but really, you're saying, look, the FBI doesn't even know. Of course it is. The FBI doesn't even know whether these emails indicate wrongdoing. That's a fair point.
Right.
So why? And they can't, because the Justice Department is not allowing them to read the emails. So why wouldn't Huma Abedin end this conversation? Okay. Why wouldn't Huma Abedin? This is a sincere question, and it's a fact-based one. Why wouldn't Huma Abedin say, read my emails, make the assessment, tell the public, end the speculation? We could do that today. Why won't she?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she will. But this is what I know. I know that the FBI looked at this so-called email scandal for over a year. Tucker, they interviewed Ms. Abedin. They knew fully well where various email servers were. They went through this investigation, and they concluded that there wasn't anything actionable there. And that all happened a few months ago. I think this is unprecedented, that an FBI director in the middle of the decision window for the American voters would put out this thing. I mean, perhaps he thought it was in an abundance of openness and transparency. Hey, I'm all for that, but don't do a letter that says, hey, I'm looking at this with openness and transparency. Wanted to let all of you Republicans in Congress know. And by the way, I don't really know if there's anything here, but I'm going to let you know I'm looking at it 10 days before the election. That's outrageous.
So if you're for openness, here's what else has never happened. No party has ever nominated a candidate who was under criminal investigation. Hillary Clinton was under criminal investigation from July of 2015 until July of 2016. You ran against her during that time. She lied about the existence of this homebrew server and about her emails. I don't remember you ever mentioning that on stage in your debates with her. Why didn't you? And don't you wish you had now?
Oh, no, we actually talked about this during the debate. Yeah, you might be confusing me with Mr. Sanders.
No, I watched all the debates.
I said that the FBI was looking at this and the FBI would make its conclusion. And indeed they did. I never said, as Senator Sanders said, that, they shouldn't look at this. I said that they should. In fact, they did. And they concluded that there wasn't anything there. I think the bigger issues in this race
they did not conclude that nothing was there. I mean, that's not at all what the director said. In fact, he
concluded that there wasn't anything actionable there, Tucker. Look, I was a lawyer. Perhaps you were as well. What they concluded was that they couldn't make a case. They could not find any criminal intent. They could not find any examples of classified material that was willfully released. That's what they concluded.
No, that's not actually what they concluded. And not to relitigate this, but that's not at all what the director said. And he went on to say, he said we're not bringing charges, but he said that anyone else who did this would be in a heap of trouble. And I'm wondering if maybe the principle of equal treatment under the law isn't worth preserving here. Are you bothered, for example, that the Attorney General of the United States met with the subject of this investigation's husband for close to an hour in secret during the investigation? Why did no Democrat stand up and say, wait a second, you can't do that? I don't remember you standing on principle at that moment. Why?
Well, but look, I think that, I think that meeting was something that, in retrospect, President Clinton probably wishes he had not done. But President Clinton isn't running for president.
But that was the Attorney General of the United States who met with him, and she is still the Attorney General. And I wonder why nobody stood up and said, that's just wrong. If it's not corruption, it gives the appearance of corruption. And now everyone's full of principle now and standing on it, but where were you then? I mean, that was an appalling moment. No?
Yeah, look, there's in a campaign and in politics, there's all sorts of things that give rise to perceptions. We're all concerned about perceptions. I'm very concerned about the fact that, Donald Trump from get-go and even in the debate said that if he were to win this election, he would jail his opponent. That's some tin-horn dictator stuff, the likes of which we're not accustomed to seeing in our country's election. I think more appalling is that the Republicans would nominate this fringe third-party fascist candidate who is facing himself.
With the name, but there you are with the name calling it. But I mean, come on. I mean, look, we have adult viewers on this show
by women
who want adult answers.
Assault.
So maybe you could provide one.
Yeah, I'll give you an adult answer, Tucker. Here's an adult answer.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, he is. You want to talk about that some more?
But you're not responding to the question.
Oh, that doesn't concern you, Tucker?
No, look.
That doesn't concern you. That this is a man who calls for religious ID cards of Americans.
The front runner of this race is under criminal investigation by the FBI. And your position appears to be...
No, she's not, Tucker.
Actually, the director of the FBI just announced that. I don't know where you've been for the last 2 days. That is a factual statement. And your position appears to be it's everyone's fault but hers.
I've been in California, and I'm going to Pennsylvania. Okay. And I don't have one voter saying to me, wow, this email stuff's really going to change my mind.
I'm not asking voters. I'm asking you. I'm asking you if you think that she is culpable for that in any way. Or is it the fault of the Russians, the fascist Trump, the corrupt right-wing FBI director? I mean, does she bear any responsibility for that at all, or is it always someone else's fault? Simple question.
No, she has admitted herself that in retrospect she wishes she had not set up that other server. That she said again and again and again.
So she is
and no, I don't believe that when Director Comey says that he's going back to look at this other server that Anthony Weiner had, that I don't believe that that amounts to the fact that Hillary Clinton is under criminal investigation again. I know that that's what Donald Trump, the fascist, says.
But hold on, but what is it then? So if the FBI director says we're investigating her in a criminal matter, isn't that a criminal investigation? What else would you call it? Think of a new name. But why is that inaccurate?
Yeah, what he said is he's going back to look at the server. That's what he has said. He has told members of Congress that he's going back to look at...
So the server is the subject of a criminal investigation? Is that your position? We're going to charge the server with a crime?
No, that's his. No, that's his because of the Anthony Weiner criminal behavior potentially of whatever the pictures were.
I get that you've got a different position than me, but let's not patronize each other by speaking in euphemisms and talking about. Let's just establish factually she is under criminal investigation.
I'm not aware that I used the euphemism, Tucker.
Okay.
Pardon?
Can't you just concede the reality of the fact that she's under criminal investigation? If we can't concede that, then, it's hard to have a conversation if we won't acknowledge reality. You think she's innocent, that's fine. But she's under criminal investigation by the FBI, correct?
No, I don't believe that that is correct, Tucker. I believe that what's happened is that in that investigation, Director Comey has said 10 days before the election that he's going to go back and take another look at that server. That does not mean that Director Comey has decided, boy, there's something actionable. In fact, to the contrary, he has said he has no idea what's in those emails.
But all investigations begin with a presumption of innocence. But you have just conceded it's an investigation being carried out by the FBI. By definition, it's not a civil investigation, it's a criminal investigation. And you won't concede that she's the subject of it. You said instead it's the server. Do you think that server would do hard time, perhaps the death penalty? I mean, this is crazy talk. Let's get to reality.
Tucker,
she's
what
the
I'm saying
subject
is
of a
their
criminal
investigation. Now, Tucker, the investigation has to do with Anthony Weiner and the horrible things that Anthony Weiner apparently has an obsession with doing online. And so he has gone back to look at that server to see if there's any connection. And he has admitted that he doesn't know whether there are any emails there that are connected to this or not.
Right.
That's what he's admitted. And that's what you, my friend, gloss over.
I think you'd be more credible if you would just admit the obvious. And the obvious point is Weiner's under criminal investigation. So's Hillary. You think she's innocent? Fine. But, you know, the terms are important and they're real. Martin O'Malley, it's great to see you this morning.
Thank you. Good to see you, Tucker.
Well, you just